Good morning, everybody. Mr. Lesher has assigned you all another reading assignment and some questions to answer. And our assignment has to do today with the Roman struggle, and it's going to be between the plebeians and the patricians. And your assignment has different sections, and each section has questions. So, as always, good readers should read the questions first so they know what they're looking for, and then they should read the passage. So we're going to go over here to section number 1 with our questions, and you need to give it a title. So basically, when you give it a title, you're going to be thinking about what is the overall lesson that this section is trying to teach you about. You're also going to be looking for the year of the founding of Rome. That's what you're going to answer there. Descriptions of a plebeian. So what percentage of Romans were what? So this is while we're reading. These are kind of guided notes. They were required to pay blank and serve in what? Plebes means. A description of a patrician is 1. Only what percentage of all Romans were blank? Choose blank to the king. And patrice means what? Okay, so that is our section that we're going to be reading for this one. All right, so let's go over here to section 1, and I'm going to read it for you. So you might want to have them both up, kind of like I did, so that you can go back and forth. You can pause this video at any time if you have the answer and fill it in. You can also copy and paste for your spelling. All right, the city of Rome was first settled by the Latin tribe around the year 753 BCE. They instituted a monarchy and made Romulus their first king. Then in 616 BCE, a more powerful tribe known as the Etruscans seized control of Rome. They would rule the city until 509 BCE, when the Roman people overthrew the last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Great. The Roman people then created a new form of government called a republic. This is a type of government where people elect representatives to make decisions for the community. However, while still under Etruscan rule, the Etruscans divided Roman society into 2 classes: a high class called the patricians and a low class called the plebeians. The plebeians made up roughly 95% of the population, meaning many in Latin. The plebes served as peasants, laborers, and craftsmen. They were also required to pay taxes and serve in the military. Patricians, on the other hand, were the elite members of the ancient Rome. While only 5% of the population, they were given the best land and often advised the Etruscan kings. Patrice means father in Latin, and patricians were often viewed as caretakers of Rome, much like a father is to his family. And it looks like they've given you a picture of that right there. All right, so the next section is section 2. But again, we should go over and we should read our questions so we know what we're looking for first. So we go down to section 2. I'm just clicking on it right over here. And we're going to give it a title. So think about what is the main idea. What are they trying to convey to you? That's what you're going to want to put for your title. All right. The ruling tribe of Rome before patricians was. All right. Your next question is: a republic was established when the patricians rebelled. What is a republic? That's your answer right there. Number of people in a senate, right there. Responsibilities of a senator. Responsibilities kind of mean duties, and you're looking for 3 different things. So what are 3 things that a senator had to do? Who are the consuls and how are they chosen? So that's what we're looking for when we're in section 2. So let's go back and read and find out our information. So we come over here to section 2. And it says, in 509 BCE, patricians and the plebeians rose together against the Etruscan monarchy to seize control of Rome. They overthrew the last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Great, and expelled him from the city. The Romans invented a new form of government called a republic. Instead of opening the democratic process to all people, like had happened in ancient Athens with the Council of 500, the Romans created a group of 300 men called the Senate that would run the country. Once elected, the senators served for life. Most laws of the city had served as judges on the most important legal matters. The Senate also chose 2 leaders to commanded Roman affairs. These 2 leaders were called consuls. Once focused on maintaining order and security at home, while the other commanded the military to protect the city from foreign threats. Each served a 1-year term. However, in times of crisis, one could be made a temporary dictator for 6 months or until it was restored. Okay, so that is section 2. Now we're going to go over here to section 3. Okay, again, after reading section 3, you need to come up with a title. That's going to be the main idea or what you are mainly learning about. All right, 1, plebeians were blank from the new political process, just like blank. 2, laws were very blank and favored the blank. 3, only blank could be blank. So as you're reading, kind of look for these. These are just the main ideas or an outline, so the main points. Laws were blank down, which led to patricians constantly blank the laws. 5, the blank of blank represents the plebeians' attempt, represents the plebeians' attempt to finally fight back. So let's look through here. So now we're on 3. All right. While the Roman Republic was a more fair system, it still only benefited the patrician elite. Plebeians were barred from political process, could not vote or serve in the Senate, and could never serve as consul. Roman law was also very biased against plebeians. Laws were not written down, so they changed constantly to favor the patricians. That was one of ours. So laws were not what? Written down. So they changed constantly to favor the patricians. So you're kind of just going along and filling in the blanks. These are guided notes, okay? The plebeians eventually grew tired and frustrated with living under patrician rule. So in 494 BCE, they began to organize their protest. Since 95% of Romans were plebeians, and as a result dominated the military, plebeian leaders decided to use this to their advantage. Known as the conflict of the orders, plebeians demanded more political power, or they would have no choice but to leave Rome. With the potential for an absent military, the plebeian elite grew worrisome that this would endanger the safety of their city. Okay, now we're going to go over to 4, and let's go to our notes for 4. So 4. All right, you're going to write a title again after you read the section, and you're going to write a short conversation between plebeian leaders and Agrippa Lantus that shows their encounter on the Sacred Mount. So you're going to kind of read and then come up with what they would say to each other. So think about how the plebeian leaders feel and how the Agrippa Lantus. So that shows what their encounter is. So let's read and kind of figure that out. So it says the patricians were right to worry. The lack of military would make Rome an easy target for a nearby enemy. The plebeians followed through their threat and fled Rome in mass to Scared Mount, a hill outside the city. So these people said they were going to leave, and they did because they were concerned that they didn't have enough military to fight them. Okay, so they left and they went to the Scared Mount, the hill in the city. Fearing for their safety and security of the city, the Parisians were willing to negotiate. Now remember, negotiate means that you're willing to talk and work out an agreement. They said Agrippa Landus, a former consul who was well liked by the plebeians, in an attempt to convince the plebeians to return. So they wanted the plebeians to come back. They were trying to negotiate them to come back. Okay, so they sent him because he was liked. He spoke about the crucial role the plebeian class played in Roman affairs. So he's telling them, he's like, guys, we need you. We need you because you help out the Romans. He compared Rome to a body, the plebeians to its arms and legs, and the Parisians to its belly. So he's saying, so as we have a body, you need arms and legs to go along with the body. We need each other. That's what they're kind of saying here. In order for the city to survive, Lingus argued, all parts need to support each other. So kind of what you could be saying in this conversation is, we need you to come back. You're important to us. We can't survive without you. So that's kind of what you're going to want to write down on there, okay? We need you to come back. We can't live without you. You support us. We support you. We take care of each other. So that's what you're going to kind of want to write down in that conversation. The plebeians agreed with Landus, but to return to Rome, the plebeian leaders demanded one thing: more political power. The Parisians were ready to compromise. So they're saying, we're going to come back, but if we come back, we need to have more political power. We need to have more control over how the government is run. And it says here that they made the compromise. So they agreed to give them that. So those are some kind of things that you're going to want to write down when you're filling out the conversation. All right, we're on to number 5. So 5 and 6. So when we read 5 and 6, this is what we're going to do. So we're going to write a title again. What's the main idea? Imagine you are a Parisian and you are writing a letter to a plebeian. Your letter needs to show at least 3 ways your political power has improved as a result of the conflict of orders. So remember, they negotiated and they went back and now they're going to have more power. So you need to write down 3 ways that the political power has improved. Okay, so let's look and see as we read 5 and 6. The result was a massive win for the majority-held plebeian class. First, plebeians secured the right to have their views represented in the Senate. All right, that is 1. So now plebeians have a right to have their views represented in the Senate. That is one of the ways that they improved. A new group was called the Tribune of the Plebes that would represent plebeian interest. A council of 10 elected plebeians would serve in this body and could veto or reject any law. So now they're able to be represented and they have the power to veto or reject laws. That's another thing that they have. Order or decision decided by the Senate. So they didn't have to just go along with the laws. They now had the power that they could reject or veto any of the laws, the decisions that they decided. The group also received absolute protection. That's another thing that they got now. Any person who laid hands on one of the tribunes would be banished from the city, and the plebeian class was entitled to kill the attacker without fear of punishment. So now if somebody attacked them, they could go back and they could kill them and they would not be punished. This treated the tribune members as too important to be interfered with. So now they're also very important. So I think that's 3 or 4 things that you could write down. But also we're going to look in number 6. Second, one of the 2 council positions had to be a plebeian. This meant that now only would plebeians hold power over the Senate, but they would also share control of leadership of Rome. So now they can be in the Senate and they also have part leadership over Rome. Okay, so do you see that? That's 2 right there. So you've got several things that you can write down. Third, and finally, the plebeians demanded the legal system be changed. No longer were laws to be changed for the benefit of the Parisian elite. For the first time, laws in Roman society were to be written down. These laws were carved into 12 wooden tablets and known as the 12 tables. The 12 tables formed the basis of a law for the Roman Republic and combined strict rules with harsh punishment. So now the laws were written down. So they couldn't go back and change it for their benefit. So the law, once it was written down, everybody could see what it was and everybody had to follow the same rule. They couldn't just say, oh, no, we didn't say that. We said this. Okay? So that's what you need to write down. You need to go back when you're in here and you need to write a letter. So you're going to be a patrician and you're going to write a letter to the plebeians. So you're going to say, dear plebeians, we are making things better for you. Here are 3 ways that we are going to make things better for you. We're going to let you be in the Senate. We're going to let you we're going to write down the laws. We're going to let you be part of the government. And you can add the other things that we talked about in there too. So that's how you're going to answer 5 and 6. All right, let's go to the 6th slide. And we're going to be reading 7. So, this dictator began limiting plebeian power. So who started to limit their power once they finally got it? How did Julius Caesar build on the work of Sulla with regard to political rights for the plebeians? What rights were taken from the plebeians as the republic began to fall? Why might any leader seek to do similar actions to what Sulla and Caesar did? All right, so let's go back and read 7. All right, the relationship between the patricians and plebeians over political power in Rome would last for quite some time. However, in the year 81 BCE, Rome saw the rise of a dictator named Sulla, who viewed the tribune as a threat to his power. He ignored their veto power and refused to support a tribune member's attempt at higher office. The plebeian power further declined with the ascension of Julius Caesar being a patrician. Caesar was banned from serving in the tribune. However, in 48 BCE, he illegally took one of the seats to maintain control over the group. Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE, and Rome was plunged into a great civil war. The Republic would not survive, but in reality, it had died well before Caesar's rise. Okay, so you guys are going to read through this. You're going to answer your questions and turn them in to Mr. Lesher. All right, I will see you all on the Zoom. Bye-bye.